Joining me now on the phone, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, CIA-trained intel operative and a senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research. Tony, good to see you this evening.
Martha, thanks for having me.
Here we go again. You know, Lower Manhattan, as we keep saying, not far from the scene of the World Trade Center. We know that, obviously, the Big Apple is high on the list for terrorists who want to pull off something like this. Your thoughts on what we saw today?
Right. Let's put this in context. Look, I was right there at 17 State Street just yesterday, and I walked from your studio to the train station, so this is no small issue to me. We have to recognize that ISIS has found an effective technique, and I'm sorry, I disagree completely with Governor Cuomo. This is not a lone wolf. This is a technique trained by ISIS to be used against all of the targets, to include New York City. There's some good and bad news here. First, look, let me say the New York police, NYPD, counterterrorism folks have been doing a lot more to stop these sorts of things than they can acknowledge. So that's the good news. The bad news is they can't be there everywhere. But this was, as Shepard just talked about, incidental to the Halloween parade. They were there in very heavy presence, and they reacted quickly to take this guy down. And I've seen pictures of those guns he had, Martha. They look just like real weapons. So the NYPD did what they had to. But we have to do two things here. We have to understand that you live, and I live here in Washington, in two of the biggest terror magnets in the world. ISIS is not defeated. They've metastasized. They've gone other places. So this is where we have to get ahead of it. Secondly, to do that, we have to be able to enhance law enforcement intelligence sharing. NYPD is the best. I work with Sheriff Dave Decatur in Stafford County as his Homeland Security advisor, working behind the scenes. The American public does not understand how much of a threat there really is. They need to understand that people are working it, though. And the last thing, we have to do what we can to get ahead of this thing in the big picture, to defeat the message. These things are happening because ISIS got out of control. The Obama administration didn't do enough to stop it, and now we're behind the power curve, and we have to do more to stop it in the future.
Yeah. I mean, you think about the different scenes where we have seen this, and as soon as I saw the images come forward, and the early reports were that it was some kind of accident, which of course takes all New Yorkers back to the moment when you started to hear that maybe a small plane had gone into the side of the World Trade Center. And then as soon as I saw the images of those bikes strewn across the path, it becomes an unmistakable image, Tony, that we have become too used to seeing. And it's pretty clear that someone very intentionally plowed off of the road and into that pedestrian area.
Well, I got some new information on that. Now, something was found in the cab of the truck that may indicate some sort of motive. I hear it may be some sort of manifesto. NYPD is analyzing that. So we have to be patient. This may be part, we don't know if this was part of a larger network. That is something they are indeed looking at. So but to your point, this is horrific. This is indicative of what terror now looks like. We cannot ban every truck. We can't ban knives. So we have to get ahead of them as best we can to detect the network, defeat the networks, and go at them where they're at, both overseas and here. And let me say one other thing real quick. We've talked about this before. The left in this country is now positing the idea of using violence as part of their political speech. There's an ad out in Virginia by Ralph Northam where he uses trucks mowing over kids.
We played that last night.
Yeah. And think about this, Martha. They do this on the left, and now we have it happen. This is not acceptable political speech, and we have to do everything we can as Americans to defeat the terror networks and not buy into using their message as a political method of speech.
Yeah, we did hear from John Miller from the NYPD, a counterterrorism specialist. And John said, we visited 148 truck rental places. This was in preparation for this kind of attack. And they basically told them what to look for, who to be concerned about when someone walks in and wants to rent a truck. You know, obviously, these are the kind of things that we have to get better at.
Right, and Martha, to that point, I mean, John and NYPD and the CT folks are doing everything they can. They cannot disclose everything that they're doing. They cannot disclose techniques. They cannot disclose their successes. But I'm telling you, you know, we've got it. We cannot afford to let our guard down one bit. We need to go full steam ahead, and we cannot afford to allow innocent citizens walking and biking in New York or anywhere else to be mowed down pointlessly.
It's horrible. You know, the word is, and we're still putting the pieces together, of this man. His last name is Saipov. He is believed to have been Uzbeki. Spent time in Tampa, Florida, but according to the latest information that we have, and obviously this is all going to continue to be refined, has been living in New Jersey. He doesn't sound like somebody who came in as a recent refugee or anything like that. He sounds like he's homegrown.
Well, look, the issue has not been necessarily where they start from. It's how the message gets given to them and the propensity for radicalization. Again, we cannot simply count on law enforcement always being there ahead of those folks. We have to start going after the message. This guy found some level of connection with ISIS, with some terror group. When we go back, Martha, when we go through his social media, I'm sure we're going to find indicators of how he was radicalized. And again, we have to understand that it's not simply about catching these guys. It's about trying to get ahead of them and defeating networks, defeating the ideology. To defeat the ideology, you must help push for a reformation of the religious of Islam. President al-Sisi of Egypt has said there needs to be a reformation of the Muslim faith to remove violence as part of its faith. And I agree with that, and others do too. So we have to go the two ways. We have to go after the message, and we have to stay ahead of them as they do their missions.
Colonel Tony Shaffer, always good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you.